How do you do? Think it's about time for some pipes, ducts, and a little bit of hangers too. Let's get after it. We are here today to take a look at Naviate Fabrication and all the tools we have inside here to speed us up and get Revit working for us, not against us. Just so you have a face to put against that voice you're going to hear, I am Ed Lariviere, the Naviate Fabrication and MEP Product Manager, one of a few people who can really tell you all the things that are going on inside Naviate. Before we totally jump into everything here, just a couple notes for the crew. I do have my coworker Derek sitting with me. He's going to be in the Q&A this whole time. So if you have questions, feel free to just jump into the Q&A, throw them up there. Derek should be able to answer them. And then at the end of this whole session, we'll go back through, make sure all those things are answered, make sure they're captured in this recording here in case you want to share this with any of your coworkers. If you do have questions, that is the place to go. There is that webinar chat, though we're not really paying attention to that for all those questions. So let's jump in. For anyone that doesn't know, Naviate is actually a brand name. So that's all the tools we make. Today, though, we are going to be looking at Naviate Fabrication, or Fab for short, because Fab, it's a lot easier to say. Fabrication really covers all the workflows we're seeing here, everything from project setup to closeout. Though today, we're going to be spending a lot more time looking at some of that modeling and maybe some of that data that's sitting inside here. Without further ado, I think we should just jump right into Revit. So, as this is likely your first time taking a look at Naviate here, I'd like to give everyone a little bit of an overview before we dive in to start using some of these tools. So right up at the top of the ribbon here, you'll see that N Fabrication, that's Naviate Fab. This is all the goodies that we're going to be looking at today. Everything over on the left here, just 3D modeling tools to make life easy. Everything over on the right here is that extra layer of detailing of data that we're going to work with to really make these fab models work for us. With the focus today being on all sorts of time enhancements and improvements we can get, we're probably not going to be diving in to really look too much at that spooling tool on the back right here, or maybe too deep into data flow, but we are going to see some of the results of these and understand what Naviate's able to do for us. Now, it wouldn't be a conversation about Naviate Fab if we didn't also quickly mention Accelerate. Just a reminder, this is all the same tool. There's just way too many buttons to have one ribbon, so we split it up into a couple. You will see me popping into Accelerate to use some tools as we go. Those Accelerate tools directly help out with fabrication. It really is this whole suite that works together that makes it a sweet suite. With that, I think we should jump in and see how some of these tools work. We're going to go ahead and start out here doing a little bit of modeling. We'll run it on some pipes, take a look at it on some duct, and just kind of snowball from there into everything else we got. But I think we should start with some of the basics first. Jumping over here, we're actually going to start out with a Revit tool. Because Fab, we're not a replacement for Revit. We're really here to just make Revit a little bit easier. And Autodesk already made a whole bunch of really good tools, like these trim to corners, these copies, these moves, those trim extends. They're great. We're going to continue to use those things left and right. Jumping in, those trim to corners, absolutely perfect when you just need a couple things to connect. You want to do those trims through, no problem at all. Let those guys run. You can even trim from a straight all the way over to a valve if you want to go ahead and let that populate for you this way as well. So the standard Revit tools, pretty nice, pretty slick, just giving us something we can work with, immediately. But those tools start to fail a little bit as we start moving into that second tier we see up here. And heck, those tools start to fail if we try to just do general drafting in 3D. This is really where Naviate starts to step in and do some pretty cool stuff. Every tool we see up here is actually made to work in 3D or 2D, so you can really run it wherever. But we're going to do a lot in 3D today, something that's going to be really hard to quantify or really measure. Maybe the amount of time we're not spending cutting section views and jumping around. Just think about that in the back of your head as we make our way through. Let's start out with something really fundamental in fabrication, though. This tool we have up here called Bloom. We'll see what Bloom lets me do is go right down to an element, choose that element, and it's going to go ahead and give me an extension coming directly out of that. So we get that straight showing up right here. Something pretty neat you'll catch. All these Naviate tools, we're going to follow all those settings you've already got set up. Whatever you have in that property palette, that's going to be what we're running with. So another cool note you'll also catch, I actually have this showing ductwork right now. You don't actually even have to update that properties palette to have these tools work properly. I'm going to go ahead and show this one up here though, just so you understand why I'm getting the parts and pieces I do. So, Bloom, really basic tool. It's just giving me a little straight. That on its own, probably not that big a deal. Where Naviate gets really cool is when we start blending these commands together and kind of going one after the other after the next. So what we're going to find as we make our way through here, we're rarely using one command. We're going to use a whole collection of commands to do something really neat. So let's start using some of those. If we look at this route that we're trying to work with, there's probably a few more steps I need to get through. And really, I'm thinking we need some sort of an elbow so we can roll up. I need to get those things aligned together. And then we can probably, if they're all aligned and rolled, maybe just use some Revit trims to get them connected. We're going to do each one of those steps with a Naviate tool instead. So let's start out with that elbow. I need something to work with. We can use one of these basic tools here just to give myself a little elbow up, something in the page, some content to work with, because it's a lot easier to modify content than create it. So I got that elbow. We'll notice it maintained my selection, which makes it really easy to grab that whole end chunk of elements, because I'm going to leverage another Naviate tool called Rotate Fitting, where Rotate Fitting is going to let me take that whole chunk of elements and rotate about that straight. Can drop that thing down 45 degrees. So we're going the right direction, and now we're down to that last step really. Just need to get those things aligned and trim back together. Now you can jump down to your 2D view, use some of your align tools, but you're always risking some heights changing. So we're not going to do that at all. We're just going to use our fabrication align branch tool up here to choose a stationary, then moving object. And we'll see no height change, no nothing. Slides along that path to line up. And we're right back to using regular old Revit. And this is really how this is going to work. We're just going to link a couple Naviate tools with a couple Revit tools and make some really cool stuff. You're not going to have a lot of buttons in here saving you 6 hours at a time, but you're going to have a multitude of buttons saving you 5 minutes each time you click it. That's really the power of Naviate. Now, we did that clicking buttons. We can get even faster than that. If we jump down here and start using some keyboard shortcuts, we can get those blooms to come out immediately. Go ahead and link one of those blooms with an elbow up. Start tab selecting your way back down. Use some rotate fittings to start rotating these guys the right direction again, and then go right back to that aligned branch. Naviate really just turns into letting you model what you need to model and seeing everything you need to see while you do it. It's a really, really smooth process. So that was pretty cool, but ultimately that's all flat pipe. That's all easy stuff to work with. What if we did a little bit more difficult situation? Something that a lot of people tend to struggle with. And I really struggled with as well until we started building tools to make it easy. Talking about slope pipe. So first fun fact, those elbow tools, they've got some hidden functionality. One of those hidden functionalities is that they'll actually maintain those slopes for you. So you start routing around, you can always leverage those elbows right up until you go up or down. Because another fun fact, an elbow up or down will always be perfectly vertical. Never pulling in any of those weird angles, never giving yourself a riser that moves a foot over by the time you're at the roof. Nice and easy to get these things laid out, perfect verticals every time. Now that's not the cool part though. The cool part is this. As we zoom in here to look at one of these situations, this is maybe one of the worst things to try and line up and connect. Just never seems to work. You wind up with extra fittings you didn't need, just a pain in the butt. Well, that exact same aligned branch we used horizontally, that is our best friend over here as well. If we take a look, I've got an 1/8 inch slope. I've got a 1/4 inch slope. And that third guy, no slope whatsoever. All lined up against an 1/8 inch main. Well, that aligned branch, couple clicks, lines both of those up. And we use that out of that box, trim, extend, and we're already done. No extra sections, no nothing. Just click, click, connect. Really, really smooth. If we want to double check any of that, we'll see everything still sitting here with that same 1/8 inch slope, same 1/8 inch slope. If we can do 1/8 on 1/8, you bet we can do 1/4 on 1/8. Same tool, same clicks, same trim, 1/4 inch, lined up to an 1/8, lined up to an 1/8. Good to go. And that last one, don't think we forgot about it. Of course we thought about it. I want to inherit that slope. This is a common modeling mistake as we start routing around. You just forget slope on one of those pipes and you notice it when it's time to finally connect them. So a nice big brother to that align branch tool, align branch plus, actually letting me jump in here and inherit that slope while I line these items up. But maybe I don't want a flat connection this time. Maybe I want a 45-degree connection. Well, this is the magic of these 3D views. As long as you're hitting those left planes, it's the exact same thing as a section. So do your coordination, move your elements around, make sure your stuff fits, and do it all in that same view the entire time you're modeling. Let Revit work for you. Don't struggle trying to find your items and all those different views. And you know what? I don't even want to draft over there. I'm going to leverage one of these elbow up 45 tools to go ahead and give me that run. And we're right back to square one with that aligned branch, sliding the fitting along the pipe and allowing me to connect. So we've just made our way through a nice little introduction to how some of these tools work. And something I'd really like you to notice, I jumped again to a whole bunch of different services. We were able to do all of this routing, but not once did we get hit with the wrong service showing. Not once did I actually have to change that parts browser over on the right. We're always looking in the back, just trying to let you continue modeling forward, making sure life is easy for you. So I mentioned some hidden functionality. I've got one other quick piece of hidden functionality for you, and I think we should probably take a look at duct, so we've got time to get through everything else. Now those elbow tools, they actually support pre-selection. Now I've got a single height rack over here. You could have a multi-tier, it doesn't matter to us. Just make sure you've already spaced your elements out. So if I grab a whole rack of elements and I start leveraging those same exact fabrication elbow tools, I can actually start turning that entire rack all at once. It looks like it's going to break. Trust me, it won't. It's actually going to give us a perfectly splayed out section here, maintaining any of those spacing we already have. You'll also catch it's maintaining that selection again. We're going to get right back into that really neat workflow of leveraging Revit tools alongside Naviate tools. So if we jump up and we use something like the move command, we're going to learn that using move on a straight just extends it into place. And if we start doing some of this rapid fire, using the move command to place it, the elbow commands to turn it, then the move command to place it, and the elbow commands to turn it, we can actually start stepping through our models pretty fast. And because none of this stuff is actually aligned dimension together, none of it's locked together, you still have full control over each of these lines. So where maybe I end up running these through a whole bunch of columns over here, I can still come in afterwards and just shift that split because none of this stuff is actually locked. We're just dropping these runs in for you so you're ready to go. So pretty neat little way to start routing our ways through the building as well. Let's jump down, take a look at some basic ductwork, and then maybe we can circle back here after and take a look at some of our more advanced commands that we have here. I just want to knock out some of the basics first, make sure we're all on the same page. If we get down to ductwork, we're going to learn all those same tools work the exact same. The whole goal of Naviate is to give us something that is easy to work with, repeatable. You learn it once, you've learned it everywhere. We can use those same aligned branches to go ahead and start lining some of these items up. Just locking them into place nice and easy. Use your same trim extends to connect together. Use a tool like Move Connect to go ahead and make it easy to start throwing on some of those terminals at the end of your runs. Use something like the elbow down 45 and maybe pair it with an elbow up 45 to go ahead and get underneath that rack and start connecting into that lower duct. Leverage that same aligned branch for your final tune and a trim extend to connect them together. These tools are meant to just work. They're meant to work even if you have weird circumstances. Because while we may have only given you a 45, if we go back here a little bit, heck, I might want a 30. We can just grab that fitting, make sure it's a 30, because I don't actually have a 30-degree family loaded. And we can still leverage these Naviate tools to finish the rest of the run. I'm going to bloom that out to get a straight. I'm going to do something I usually ban my users from doing, which is copying an element in 3D. Because I don't need to do any weird movements or fancy tricks to get that to connect. I just jump up and leverage a tool like Move Connect Align to automatically rotate, move, and connect that for me all in one go. Then we're right back to square one, using the Bloom tool again, and right back to that aligned branch. Nice, quick automations let us do nice, quick routes. We'll come back and look at a little bit more of this ductwork later. Now, as we look up at some of those routing tools, we'll see there's a little bit more advanced stuff sitting in here as well. We've got these tools up here like the Kick 90. We have some reroutes to go over under elements. We have these really neat rehosting tools. I think I want to take a look at a couple of those real quick. Because how many times does it happen where you might have a little bit of a run going? Let's go ahead and take a look at that in 3D. And find out while you're in that 3D space that the unit you thought you were going below, you are no longer going below. Well, that's just not going to do. We need to do something about that. So I don't necessarily want to jump back in here and deal with, rerouting all of these individually. I probably got a pretty decent idea what needs to be done here. I'm just going to jog over the top of this. So I could grab that whole rack all in one go, jump up to fabrication, and do a little reroute under over on that guy. Do make sure you click the right button. Don't be me. We want under over for this. Just choosing a left side cut, a right side cut, a vertical offset, maybe 2 feet above. And I'm going to do 90-degree angles here. Now I want you to note, because this always comes up, yes, that VAV is inside my model, but if you'll notice the clicking I did just here, it doesn't actually have to be. I'm just clicking 2 locations on that pipe that I want it to leverage. I never actually told it to interact with that element. I just said on this side of the pipe, on that side of the pipe, offset and angle. So you could have your other elements linked in and just show them through a link. You could have your other elements just be a measurement that you made in the field. You might not even have it modeled. And you just know in this area, you got to jog around something. Whatever it is, get those values in there, clear your clash, and you're good to go. And again, I really want to harp home how cool these 3D views are. If you need to get more specific, zoom right into those side views. You can start using those move commands all over again to line those guys up and then lift it so it's exactly 2 inches right off the top of that. Trying to make life nice and easy no matter what. Then maybe we want to start, minimizing some of this because that's a lot of extra bends that maybe we don't need. Maybe you just use this to go get that top piece in here and we think about coordinating the rest after. If we jump over to the left, I can go ahead and delete some of that out. I guess that's the right if I reorient myself to match our page here. There we go. We might even find some of these things that, Revit does do well, like trim. We might have some other options in here that we could do instead. Because while trim's pretty great, it's still giving me that double coupling that we have to sort out and work with later. So we got a nice tool up here called Kick 90. It has 2 different situations we could use it in. If you want to do a roll where you kind of do that 90 to a roll, and then 90 to a 45 again for the next one, you can absolutely do that. But something I want you to pick up is we're not actually placing that extra coupling. We're just extending these to match, which also means if you want a trim tool that works in a 3D view, you can leverage this with a 90-degree angle to do the exact same thing trim to corner is doing, but inside a 3D view and without placing all those extra couplings. Let's coordinate those couplings at the end of the project. Let's make sure we can go in once this thing is done and start optimizing those. We don't need to do that as we go. That's how you wind up with too many couplings. And then maybe looking over here on the left-hand side, maybe I do want to just get these all up at the same height and keep that running. Well, I'm going to delete out part of this. And why don't we just leverage a tool from inside Accelerate to handle this for me? I could jump up and use something called Match Parameters to choose an element that I want as a host, like that horizontal run that's up high. Come down here and find a value, like the lower and bottom elevation. Or maybe I had a mix of insulated and uninsulated items, and I wanted all of their bottom elevations to match. We could even use something like lower and bottom of insulation. And then all I have to do is choose the elements I care about, click Match Values. It lifted all of those up to the exact same height. And we can jump right back into using that trim to corner to do that final connection for us. Fun fact, if you do trim to corner on something that extends, you don't get the couplings. You only get that weird coupling glitch if you have to change between heights. So lots of neat little things hiding out in here. Let's go ahead and take those auto tools and jump over to a couple other ones we have up here that are pretty nice. These rehosters. Now I know they got some hanger symbols, and we'll absolutely see these on some hangers in a little bit. But I'd like to show you something neat for the ductwork side and for the pipework side first. So for everyone who's got a whole bunch of routes that you start feeding out, maybe you're doing a little bit of a fishbone distribution here, and you want to grab a bunch of these elements, and you go ahead and use just that mirror tool out of Revit here, just to mirror these guys right down the center. That's all fine and dandy and great, but none of this stuff is connected. It's pretty annoying. So why don't we just rehost it? Because even dragging that thing, man, maybe half of the time it does what I want. It moves them a little bit to the left or the right. It's no good. So we can just use Fab Rehost, rehost it back. And if we go check now, we'll see that that's actually connected together. And if I decide I didn't want to even do that rehost on all of them, we've got a nice copy rehost tool as well. Letting me jump up, choose the elements I plan on working with, and then just click to place copies of them at each other location. And we'll find that each of those copies placed, again, fully connected together. So if you like that copy workflow of setting one thing up and bringing it through, you can keep doing that. And you can just leverage this tool to auto-connect each one as you go as well. The same is true of pipework, though I think they have a slightly different issue here. Same idea, but with OLEDs. It is so incredibly easy to copy these around, but it is so wildly difficult to get it to reconnect. Anyone who's routing pipe here, I'm sure you're nodding your head in agreement. So if I've got one of these OLEDs over here and I start copying it around the regular way, I've actually got another fun thing to teach you about. I'd like everyone to first notice that my OLED is red. My OLED actually knows that it's disconnected right now. So I actually know it's disconnected. I can jump up here and I can use a tool to reconnect it. And that red disappears. I'm calling that out because that's a real quick taste or hint to our tool data flow. We're not going to actually get to dive in and see exactly what data flow does or how to use it fully, but we are going to see some results and some cool use cases for it as we make our way through here. One of those use cases is actually allowing me to understand if my OLED is connected or not. So if it's connected, I'm feeding it a true. If it's disconnected, we're getting a false. And that means as you start copying these around or you go into a project that already existed, maybe you're a Stratus user and you're getting all these issues when you kick out to Stratus because you don't have that hole in there. It doesn't matter. We're actually able to identify and locate those things. And if you do some fun work with your filters, can even make them into these giant red dots, letting me know that something needs to be fixed. So we'll see that happen a couple more times, especially when we get to hangers. We've got a cool little data flow that checks our hangers as well. So rehost tool works for everything. That's going to hit us on hangers. That's going to hit us on taps. That's going to hit us on OLEDs. There's no reason to have disconnected systems. Keep your stuff connected. Life's better when your systems are connected. All right. Now, there's probably a couple more tools up here inside that modeling that we did not get a chance to see. If you would like to see them, you've got our contact information. I'm sure you're going to get an email when the session's done. Just reach out to Symmetry. We are here, happy to dive deeper, see how these workflows might work in your own context. With that, though, I think it's about time to move past those basic modeling commands and into some of the data stuff that we're able to do, and then probably into some of those hangers and sleeves. So let's take a pit stop in data because we got a really cool tool up here called our Fabrication Properties palette that really starts blending us between data-based workflows and some modeling workflows. So what we're going to find in that Fabrication Properties palette is that there's a lot of data inside Fabrication CAD MEP that Revit just does not make available to us. If you look on the right and you go through your parameters, it's relatively limited what Revit gives you out of the box. If we go look at our Fab properties, we start scrolling down, you'll actually see every last little bit of data that you've entered inside FabCAD MEP available for you to check out and also available for you to sync. So if there was something over here that I really wanted to be able to schedule, that I really wanted to show inside my projects, you can actually hop in, find those values, sync those values, and now we have that reading out for me ready to go. Heck, if you wanted this to be automated, you could even set something pretty cool up inside data flow, and these will just auto-populate for you as you draft as well. Now, it's not just about showing those properties. We also allow you to make some cool edits. We're going to see there's some custom parameters, some dimensions, and connectors. Let's pit stop on those custom parameters. These are those custom data fields that you have set up in FabCAD MEP. What's cool about those custom data fields is they're one of the only things that you can read and write to for an MAJ export. So we do actually allow you in here to start syncing those custom data fields, adding something cool to them. Maybe an item number that you want to export with your MAJ. Maybe a cheeky piece of text because you need something to write in. You can always hop right up here to that sync to ITM fields, and when we click equal, we'll see that's actually been added to that ITM part. So that's not stored in that normal spot. That's not stored for everything. That's stored for that one element that we sunk that value to. This is a really cool way to start getting some data into those exports. So when you go hit that table, you have that much more information waiting for you. Now, if we can hit custom parameters, we can definitely hit connectors and dimensions. And what do you know? There they are waiting for us. Popping down to connectors, we'll see we are getting both of those connectors, both those connector types. If you want to start making changes to those, feel free. But why change just one thing? I can do that today with the Edit Part button. What if I want to change many things? You can always hop in here, and if you grab multiple items, where Revit says no, Naviate says yes. So if I want to drop one of these sides to TBC, absolutely can, and we'll see that update happen on both of them. We'll also catch that update did happen to their connected elements as well, so we're good to go. Hopefully you're not making changes like this that often, but if you do get stuck in a snag, we're here to support you. And if you're making changes like that, you're certainly changing those throat lengths here and there as well. So we could even jump right into those dimensions. And if I want to start doing 1 foot extensions off of here, just start typing it in. Not 1 inch, 1 foot. We'll see that updating for us live right over here, ready to go. And just like those properties, you'll also catch we're able to sync these values. So if these matter to you for your tags, for your schedules, if you want to be able to sort and filter by the different connector types, so you don't treat a duct that looks like this and a duct that is 2 slip and drives as the same exact thing. You can actually start syncing that data out and treating these as different types of elements. Really slick stuff. So with that, I think we're going to close out of those properties, make our way over to hangers, and start seeing some more cool stuff. Let's close that pane out. And I'm going to take a little sip of tea on my way over. Phenomenal. So moving over to this side, we've got a whole set of some pretty nice hanger tools waiting for us. Realistically, you just have to set those things up and then they're ready to run. So if you have someone else at your company that wants to set these things up for you, you just have to start grabbing elements, saying run my hangers, and we're going to see that thing run right through here, place a whole bunch of hangers for me, snap into structure like we'd expect on an ITM-based hanger, and following all these rules we've already set up. So you might be wondering about those rules and how I set them up. Well, we have an entire configuration pane in here, letting us choose exactly what we get as that end result. So I'm popping that open right here. Takes a couple seconds to load because we're actually looking at all of your services, all of your hangers that we have available, trying to make it really, really powerful for the mixing and matching you can do inside this tool. So once we're in here, we'll see I did already set one up for ductwork, and I'm placing trapeze hangers 5 feet apart, 6 inches from fittings and joints, and I'm actually rounding up my strut to the nearest 2 inches. So when we get out of this menu, we're going to have to go check all those hangers out and see if we're doing all these rules that we laid out here. We'll also see in the bottom right, I'm using either that width if I want it, or like I have this turned on, I'm using half perimeter to start describing, what size duct get what's element. So my duct is set up pretty basic. I think we should maybe set something up for pipework real quick just to get a brief idea of what's happening. The idea is to create a new profile. Once you're in that profile, choose some services you'd like to work with it. I'm going to go ahead and grab my chilled water supply return and heating water supply and return. We can add all 4 of those services to the exact same template here, and then start choosing those elements we want to work with. Now, realistically, I could do these by size and say as I get to larger sizes, I need different types of clevis. I'm going to do something really basic here, though. And I know that I've got copper and I've got carbon inside these services. So I'm going to go ahead and choose one of these as a copper clevis. One of these is one of those electro clevises. And then I'm just going to jump over to left and use some filters to filter out the step. So you have the choice. You can do just host size, just filters, or a mix of both. The intention, though, is to let you filter down to exactly what hanger you need and exactly what situation you need it. For me, though, I'm just going to use material really quickly and say copper gets copper. Revolutionary, I know. And I'm going to go ahead and say carbon steel gets carbon steel. Easy peasy, good to go, lined up, ready to rock. Jump down here, and let's make sure these go to structure. And I should be good, right? Well, what if I want to place something other than a clevis? Because I think we run into spots where we want to do racks of elements all the time. We should probably define that rack-based workflow as well. So up here, I'm just going to go choose something like one of these strut hangers to work with, and then do that same thing we were looking at a minute ago. I think 2-inch increments would be pretty nice. And why don't I go ahead and do a 1-inch insert into the deck above as well. So the first time you do this, I know what I'm doing. Took me a couple seconds. Might take you a half hour to get through here, but that's the beauty of it. You set it up once, you save it, you export it, use it again and again and again. We don't want you to have to set it up every single time. We want you to build out that set of things you need and just leverage those all over the place. So you might have been wondering what that layout actually ended up looking like. Well, here you go. Looked pretty slick if you ask me. We'll catch that those low rods are snapping to that low structure, high rods snapping to that high structure. We even have some tools in here to change that around and choose the new location those rods run to. We'll see all of that in a few minutes. Jumping up this way, maybe I want to use some of those other tools. Those base hanger tools we saw here, just placing down a single run of trapezes. If we do that same tool on those pipes, because we told that hanger to place clevis, we'll see some clevises showing up on those pipes. If we want to do a pipe trapeze, go find a spot you'd like to do that, and do something maybe like trapeze single, to choose a start, an end, and an OK, and have it stretch across all those elements for us. And oh, what do you know? It turned red. Maybe I have something from data flow checking to see if I'm staying hosted, just in case I start copying something like a clevis around. We'll also catch 2 foot 4 inches, making sure we stay to those rounded values. Really, really nice. And we'll see that same thing happening up here. And in fact, you might have noticed that's an editable value. Anyone here ever try to resize a hanger? Sure you have. It's not fun. Be really nice if I could just type in a value and have it automatically update those hangers for me. Be really, really nice. So we can do it. All right, getting back to it. That's a little bit of that basic placement. After that basic placement, we have some other pretty neat stuff in here as well. So maybe I want to start doing some rack-based stuff. We saw we can place little individual ones, but what happens in a situation like this, where maybe I now decide I want these to extend across many elements? Well, I could jump up here and leverage a tool like our trapeze update to grab a whole set of these and extend them from that duct all the way to that pipe, or if I'm feeling extra nice, why don't I go all the way to that linked element and help out, whoever that is. Not sure who it is, but I'm sure they'd enjoy letting me hang their stuff for them. And there we go. Stretched right across, letting us know that all those things are updated. And there is a slight catch because it can't be this awesome. If we do those extra large trapezes, we do have to unhost them for them to work. If they do remain hosted, you can't extend them out this way. A lot of stuff ends up breaking. So small catch to go ahead and actually properly support our elements though. So we can use those array tools to go ahead and lay out those hangers. We can use update tools to stretch them out. We could even do a trapeze array to have done that the first time when we originally placed those. The workflow is really up to you. We just want to give you the tools to support you. So that trapeze update, pretty cool. Trapeze single, pretty cool. Those hanger arrays, pretty cool. Let's get into a little bit more of the detailing we might be running into here. So I've got this second row below, and that's where stuff can start getting tricky, and you really have to spend a lot of time working with those, hanger rods there. What if I told you we made a bunch of tools to make that easy? Like trapeze over under, letting me choose that lower row. Choose some hangers from the row above. Maybe some of them have spread out. Maybe some of them have not. And why don't we let Naviate just jump through here, place down that lower rack for me, and understand that it's only hanging those elements and that those rods actually end at the element above. So we're not going to give you a bunch of rods going all the way through to the ceiling above. We're just going to give you that lower rack ready to go, nice and easy. And if we can do that with 2 elements, maybe we can do something even cooler. So we figured something out. I'd like to call my devs magic, but they're people. I've met them. I've shook their hands. So it's not magic. It's real life. But we figured out some pretty cool stuff with ITM parts. If I jump over to this side, I've got a couple hangers here waiting for me. And I really have a 3-tier rack here. And I think we're all used to doing a hanger on a hanger on a hanger. But that can make those schedules a little bit messy. There's just a lot going on when you do something like that. So we proposed, why not grab some hangers that you want to work with? Why not click a little more better than me? I'm an engineering major, not a language major. Click finish here and go ahead and choose a couple more levels. I'm thinking we should maybe support those with a standard trapeze hanger to match the one we've been using. And I think both of these need to be supported. Very similar to the last one, let Naviate do the work for you. Don't spend your time fighting Revit if you don't have to. But the difference being, I've got a rod that goes from bottom to top. 1 continual rod, 2 full values out here of the full rod length that I need to grab and the size to match. Check this out though. Those interstitial runs, those ones in between, they actually have a 0 rod length. We figured out how to place ITM parts with a 0 rod length. That way you can still track these as ITM parts, but when you go ahead and track that rod length, you only have that singular rod length you're working with, not 3 that you have to combine together. Pretty cool stuff. And then we figured, well, if we know how to go ahead and make a ITM part without rods, I think there's some other spots that might be pretty useful as well. Maybe I've got some supplemental steel I have to work with. And I'd like to point out this is the first time we have cut a section view this entire project. I think that's pretty neat. The only reason I'm cutting it is to draw a reference plane, because Revit doesn't make it easy to draw reference planes in 3D views. Calling this one supplemental steel, because I think it'd be pretty neat if I could use something like an ITM part, that angle iron, as my supplemental steel, so it fits into all my schedules and everything else I do in a pretty smooth way. So why don't we jump up here now after having created that and go use a tool like Manual Strut to go ahead and let me identify the ITM part I'd like to work with, like that trapeze hanger. Then once I've done that, maybe use that place on work plane approach Revit gives us to find my supplemental steel reference plane, and then draft it from that wall to that structure. Well, looky there. That's pretty neat. Though my rods are going right through it, and they probably shouldn't. I'd really like it if they just stop at the element above. Well, why don't I leverage a tool like Hanger Rod Extension to come in here, select that lower hanger, and let it automatically detect that hanger above to lower those rods to the right location. The auto version is by far the beesiest we're going to get. But if you do want to do something a little more tedious and select it, feel free. We can always attach to structure. You can manually set those lengths. Or maybe your architect didn't even give you the structural model. Go ahead and build your own reference plane and hang these right up to that reference plane. And if you do need a little extra room one way or the other, Maybe in this circumstance, I want an extra inch above so I can maybe, throw a nut up there so it hangs. I could say, well, let's detect that element above and give me 1 extra inch past it. Hit OK, and we're done. Incredibly easy, didn't need to leave my 3D view, and I've got the exact length that I need to work with to hang off that element. Nice and slick stuff. And like I mentioned, we're seeing as we get some of those unhosted ones, they're popping up. If we come down here and think about some of those clevises, maybe you're using something like hanger single to place a couple of them down, but then you got a coworker that forgets, runs through and decides to make a couple copies. Immediately, you can tell that those are not hosted the way they should be. Well, why don't we jump back up and leverage that fab rehost here to go ahead and choose both of those elements and rehost them back down so we're good to go. And then maybe go nudge your coworker and say, hey, buddy, why don't you use that copy rehost instead? And you can just click to place, and we won't need to do that rehost step later. You're good to go. So hangers, pretty nice. A lot of fun stuff sitting inside there. If you want to get deeper, again, reach out to Symmetry. We are here to help. One last little detail one I want to do, then I'd like everyone to see our advanced renumber and quick bombs because we made a few updates to these to make them even better. But let's take a quick pit stop for wall sleeves. Our wall sleeves, similar to our hangers, do come from a set of options, where those options are allowing us to go in here and see the host size of the element compared to a sleeve size that we're going to place, as well as doing some additional mapping on top of that. Now, the additional mapping is where this gets cool. If we jump over to pipe mapping, we will always have some base items set in here. Same for duct and electric, but if we jump to sleeves, we'll also see we can map some parameters. So what does this look like as a whole? If I jump down here and I go and find my pipe accessories, we'll see I have some sleeves waiting for me. And I think today I'm going to need to place some Hilti sleeves on my firewalls. So if we go back up into those sleeve settings and we do the coolest workflow possible, I'm actually able to hop in here and start mapping specific sleeve types to specific wall types and pulling information from those pipes or ducts that run through them as we go. If we jump up here, we'll see I can look at that architect's model and say, by default, give me a default sleeve. I don't need anything fancy. But in that same model, when I hit a typical partition wall, which my architect told me is 1 hour fire rated, just place a Hilti sleeve instead. And now if we go in and start placing one of those down, it's as simple as choosing wall sleeves, an element to work with, finish. And Naviate's going to go ahead and find the intersection on that wall, place that sleeve against that wall, and we'll see that it's going to be that Hilti sleeve because that's a typical partition. Now those sleeves don't move with the element. That is on purpose. We don't want you moving those sleeves afterwards and messing up your install because your sleeve nudged 6 inches to the left when it should have stayed where it was. If I want to go one step further, going right into those parameters, we can even choose some parameters to map. Because I think it'd be pretty neat if I could understand what's actually running through here. So if I wanted to go find that fabrication pipe, grab some values like the free size of that element and maybe the service name, we could go ahead and set that up right for my pipe work. I can even have my sleeves read out their coordinate locations, so you can easily create schedules or bill of materials of those sleeves as well. Kick those out to Excel, and then go ahead and use those as part of your point placement processes. Jumping over this way now, you don't have to do it one at a time. Feel free to grab a couple elements. It will place a sleeve for each one of those, and it will map that data inside per item. Nice and easy to work with. Now I'm doing it in the 2D view. It does take a little slower in 2D, but to be honest, it's easier for me to find my elements. That's why I'm doing it. We do also support blockouts, floors, and roofs, and a manual sleeve if you don't actually have a link available. Same exact process, choose the elements you want, place a sleeve around them, using host size to size it, using wall type to determine which one we need. Really slick stuff. And like I mentioned, we're putting all that good data inside as well. So that sleeve's sitting down here with X, Y, Z's, free size, and fab service all ready to go, ready to tag. Those are all shared parameters for you to leverage. All right, so you've done a whole bunch of work. Our model's all sorts of populated. I want to start getting into that closeout side. We probably need some renumbering going on. We probably need some bill of materials. Let's hop into advanced renumber and do this nice and quick so you guys have time for questions. As we pop into advanced renumber, we'll see that the cool part about advanced renumber is you can actually save some settings. And those settings map to these things called Naviate filters. Let's take a pit stop and a Naviate filter. Those are actually coming from Accelerate. And the Naviate filter is a way to select elements, but to get really specific with that selection. Because maybe I want to get in here and grab all of my VAVs on level 1. I could come down here and say, well, just for the elements in view, let's go to my mechanical equipment. Let's go ahead and find every piece of mechanical equipment that has a comment containing the letters VAV. I can jump down here and click select and get every single one of those all in one go. We'll see all of them getting selected. So we leverage and save those Naviate filters, and we're going to use those throughout fabrication so we can run our tools on very specific sets. That means if we go into something like advanced renumber, I can leverage that Naviate filter that I created for hangers to go ahead and grab every hanger in the project we just created. And that hanger setting that I have set up right now, if we look through, I'm writing my parameter to item number. You can choose wherever you want to write that value. I've given it a prefix. This is all user definable, whatever you want it to be. But I think the coolest part is I'm down here sorting and grouping these values together. So if you take a look, any of these like hangers are all getting the same exact number. Now, while I'm doing this for hangers, this is good for anything. However you want to start numbering your items, however you want them to group together. Doesn't have to be hangers, could be pipes, could be sleeves, could be units. Totally up to you. You can actually start sorting, grouping, filtering them together to make sure that they're getting the exact numbers, prefixes that you want getting read out. Really, really slick process. And all it takes to write that in is apply. And I've now added item numbers to every single one of my hangers. Now, I've got item numbers, that's great. I need to make a schedule now so someone can actually do something about it. So why don't I just jump up and use one of my bill of materials? All our bill of materials come from this baseline, setup. Again, get one person to understand what they're doing and the rest of your team can just leverage these tools. But I'm in here and I have one set up for my hangers. We're using a Naviate filter all over again, but this time I'm leveraging a Revit view template to choose exactly what parameters, exactly how it looks, really allows you to use whatever you want to make it look the way that you need it to look. Just like everything else in Naviate, bring your own stuff. Let's make Revit easy to use. You've already figured out the parts and pieces you need. Who am I to tell you to use something else? So I'm going to use that view template there, that same filter we just used, and I can jump right up here now and say, well, let's go ahead and do a quick bill of material. Allow me to jump in here, choose that setting that I've already set up, grab the elements I want to work with. Feel free to grab all willy-nilly. We'll filter it down for you after. That's what those filters are for. Click Finish, and we'll see it generates that bill of material for me with that time and date stamp. Now, anyone who might have been working with this tool in the past, you are not allowed. Yeah, it's this guy right here. Yeah. Anyone who's done this in the past, you are not classically allowed to change the name of these things. You are absolutely allowed to change the name of these things these days. The reason being, we've actually changed how this tool works a little bit. So it's actually adding some little GUID information into these elements for that selection bill of materials. What's nice about that is where we didn't previously give you a warning if you were going to reselect some elements. We're now actually able to understand, regardless of what that's been renamed to, regardless of what you've done to it, we're able to identify that these have already been added to a bill of materials. We'll let you know, give you a copy of all the element IDs if you want to go search for them. But really, it's these top options up here that matter. You can add to another one, so you could actually have elements show up in multiple bill of materials if needed. You can move to that new one, or you can just cancel and ignore those elements and you'll be good to go. So making it nice and easy to go in here and create those bill of materials. Just select your elements, create it, leverage those view templates and filters, and you're done. So I hope everyone here learned a few new things. We made our way through a whole bunch of stuff, and we didn't even get through it all. So if there's anything that's up on that ribbon that's still staring at you going, hey, I want to know what that does, feel free to reach out to Symmetry and we'll absolutely dive in and take a deeper look with you. So Naviate is a little bit more than just being that set of tools. It might be corny, but we are a community. We've got a whole bunch of people here all the time, willing to help out, ready to help out, just really devoted to everyone who uses our tools succeeding. You get your own access to the license portal. We have a giant blog we're running at any given point in time. All the tools you see these days, they're all customer driven. We're getting feedback from the people we work with to generate new tools, and we're tracking that all in a public way with that ideation portal. People who have new ideas or new workflows are sharing those through the web all the time. We've got a great help desk, great e-learning, and if you are so inclined, you could even hop onto the web and buy this directly. If you'd like to follow us, we got a few different places you can find us. And I'm sure you're going to get some links to these too in that follow-up email.